What's going on, guys? It's Stock Picks by Tim here, and in this video today we're going to go over a lot of earnings dates coming up here, and we're going to get right into it. First off, we're going to talk about Sens Mttr. And if you're new to my channel, make sure you check out some of my previous video. I cover a lot of stocks like BNGO, Astra's earnings, Lucid, AMD. Make sure you check it out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and be notified of my next video by hitting the notification bell. And let's get into Sens Mttr. And SENS stock is expecting earnings on May the 10th. And this has not yet been confirmed or denied on Sens Mttr's investor relations page, so keep an eye on it. We're going to get an update very soon, and it'll be on the presentations and events tab. And looking at Sens Mttr on the chart, you will see that we did break this about 126, 130 level, and we just continued down. We're now sitting at about 126. So we've got relatively mixed technicals here. I personally think small caps last week just sold off way too much. Now, although I think this is a bit of an overreaction, just be aware since their earnings is coming up next week, we could still see some choppiness. We could create some new lows coming up to earnings. But it's times like these where long-term investors feel like a kid in a candy store, and I'm no different with Sens Mttr. Next up is going to be Matterport or MTTR stock, and this one is also reporting on May the 10th. And Matterport is no different than Sens Mttr on the chart. We did break from our previous low of about 573, and now we're pushing lower, touching $5. Keep an eye on this one. If we do break this $5, it's very likely we'll push farther down. I think we're going to start establishing 5 as a support leading up to earnings personally. It's crazy to think how this one has just sold off so much. I mean, this was a $25, $30 stock at one point, and now it's sitting at $5. Just 1/5 of its original value. Now, looking at Matterport's earnings, what they're expecting for revenue, they are expecting about 27.5 million. And the previous quarter, they reported 27 million. It was expected to be 25. So they did beat their revenue previous quarter, although they missed on their EPS and they gave a unsatisfactory outlook. And that's why this thing sold off. That was kind of the beginning of just the push to the downside. This wasn't necessarily when it started, but this was, definitely this definitely helped accelerate it to the downside. Now, I really want to see us break at the very least 27 million. If we don't beat this, I'm okay with it, as long as we at least get that 27.10 and above. To me, would be positive. I do not want to see this get lower revenue. And it had the same problem in the previous quarter. It did report 27.6 million. So the last earnings that was reported was slightly under quarter over quarter compared to the last revenue. I would love to see this next earnings revenue beat this 27.6 million. But I won't complain if we at least beat 27 million on the dot, or 27.10 and above. So keep an eye on that. I want to see that revenue increase. I want to see a good outlook on this one. If we give another unsatisfactory outlook, this will probably continue to chop around. So I definitely want to see a decent outlook on this one. And there was recent news about them expanding into Japan and a lot of demand there in Japan. And next is going to be Cleanspark, and we have a pattern here. This one is also reporting on May the 10th, and that's going to be a Tuesday. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this channel, I did give you guys a recent Cleanspark mining update. So I will leave you guys a link below for that, and make sure you check it out. Now for Cleanspark, while yes, recently we have been creating new lower levels, if you do zoom out, you will see that we have not broken our local lows. These were established in the beginning of February. So I want to see us not in this 550 area. And this was, of course, the very, very bottom was about 550. I don't want to see that. I personally don't think we're going to come down that low. Tuesday will come around. I do expect their revenue to be in that $50 million range personally. But it will also be very important to see that EPS. We want to see a positive EPS again. So I will be covering their earnings, so definitely stay tuned. And we're going to get a lot of information on their future outlook. We're going to get some information on Lancium, the deal there, any progress made. Also more information on their immersion coolers. But looking at Cleanspark right now, we are bearish on the candles. The RSI is relatively neutral. It did just break out of his trend line though. And the MACD is just about to curl, it looks like. Although we might have some uncertainty leading up to earnings, so, wait until Tuesday. I do think it can go either way next week. Monday and Tuesday specifically coming up to earnings. But I do think it could go either way. I do think we did sell off a hell of a lot. But at the same time, Bitcoin's still sitting at this 36, 37,000 area. And stocks do remain falling knives. So we will see if we see a slight continued sell-off. I personally think it's a little overblown. And we're due to have a little bit of a recovery week. Next up is going to be Indi Semiconductors, and this is INDI stock, and they are reporting May 12th. And this chart structure here is completely different than any other structure I've shown you guys. We have consistently held at this level. So we did reach a low point of 650 in the end of January, came down, retested, hit 660 roughly, same thing, 660 roughly. Same thing again, and then just, the same thing. We did break a lower point compared to the previous, but we did not break this. We did not break this low. I am very bullish on Indi, definitely like it. It's very near oversold. Just seeing how rarely this gets oversold on the RSI, you can see that there's definitely a lot of buyers on this one. Anytime it just starts selling off, there's a lot of people trying to support this stock. I feel like you can definitely tell. I mean, because think about the theme here. All small caps since the end of January have pretty much been continuing to create lower lows for the most part. You know, not all of them, of course, but most. And, you know, Indi's not at all like that. There is definitely buyers around anywhere pretty much in the $7 down to $6.50. There, I think, are a ton of buyers ready to buy this one up. I personally do not think we're going to come down much farther. Now, a lot of small caps have been recently reporting, earnings this week, last week, the week before, and I think that has contributed to a lot of selling off, just the fear and uncertainty. Once Indi gets through their earnings, I do expect this one to have a nice little recovery, and I do expect some pretty good things with this one. Now, if we do have a really good earnings and things just start rallying, just be aware that we do not like to be overbought very often. I'll start selling towards that 70 area on the RSI, maybe even the 65 area. Just to scalp some if it started running up exponentially, started running up really crazy. Just be aware the RSI and the MACD have a lot of room to run, but we are still bearish on the technicals. We are unable to hold over the EMAs on the candles. RSI is still very oversold, still under the trend line, and the MACD is still bearish, although ready to curl. I think this is about to flip very soon, and of all of these stocks I just mentioned, I think this one has a reversal coming the quickest. And next up is going to be Workhorse, WKHS, and that's going to be reporting on May the 10th. We've got a lot of stocks reporting May the 10th. It is going to be an extremely busy Tuesday. And my daughter wanted to point out that we have not been creating lower lows on Workhorse. This one's looking good as well. Now, we do have recent news that they have been looking for sales positions, so I personally don't think they're going to get any revenue this quarter, and it's expected to be like roughly 15,000, which is next to nothing, but I don't think they're going to get any revenue. I'm not worried about the revenue at all right now. I don't expect it. I think this will probably sell off if they don't see any revenue personally. But I'm more excited for their earnings, just for the earnings call, for their future outlook, what they're expecting for trucks. Are they actually starting to roll them off the line? And what's going to happen moving forwards with their partnership? That's what I'm really concerned about. How is the progress going at the plant? How's the drone side of the business going? That's what I'll be really worried about. I don't expect anything major for earnings, but if we do get a surprise here, I bet this one will absolutely pump just because of how sold off it is, because everyone is pricing in failure with this stock. That's the great thing about some of these stocks. Yes, they are very, very high risk, but when they work out, you're going to make huge gains compared to, you know, just a large cap that's already established, already fully grown, or somewhat fully grown. You know, when you look at a Workhorse, and if they are actually able to achieve their goals, if they are actually, you know, going to be one of the leading EVs in terms of last mile, you know, in terms of delivery service, if they are going to be one of the top dogs there, you know, this company is going to be massive. So it is definitely a long shot and is not 100% guaranteed. And many others have failed before Workhorse. So I'll be watching Workhorse very closely, seeing that we do not establish any new lower lows. Alright guys, now what are you going to be watching for next week? Let me know in the comments below, and what's your favorite stock out of this list? And also, what are you just watching overall recently? But thanks so much guys, and see you next time.